Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Gatenby. I'm so glad to be here. I always like to tell people I'm not only the Hair Club president, I'm also a member. So, in addition to being the CEO of Hope Play Centers, I'm also an individual with long-term recovery from addictions. And for me, that means that I haven't had a drink or a drug since July 15th, 2004. And that's what brought me to the sector. I used to be a pill popping professor, and there's a big saying in education that those that can't do teach. So when I got clean and sober, I recognized the impact that stigma had on me and the fear that I faced in seeking treatment. And despite me even teaching my third year sociology students that women in 2004 should feel no more shame for seeking help with mental illness or addiction treatment than they do for diabetes or breast cancer, I did feel that stigma and shame, and I experienced it. And that troubled me. So I decided to get into the industry. Fast forward several years, and I'm here at Hope Play Centers, and I have been here since 2011. I only have 10 minutes, so I want to focus my talk really intensely on the difference that the United Way, I'm going to get emotional, made to our community when the COVID pandemic hit. Many of you may not know, I mean, the Alcoholics Anonymous has become really ubiquitous in our society. You know, you see references in movies. I'll never forget finding Nemo, where it's like, the steps, Bruce, remember the steps. Fish are friends, not food. So we're all familiar with it. Well, those 12-step programs are really the safety net for people in the recovery community. That's where we go to get our recovery. We're in church basements every night. If you ever drive by a church at 9 o'clock on a Friday night and see a bunch of people outside, too many of them smoking, that is probably an AA meeting. When the shutdown order came into effect, all of our people who were thriving in their recovery in the community hit the wall. All of a sudden, there was no NA, no AA to go to. It took the Worldwide Fellowships a minute to pivot and get meetings online. People were losing their jobs. People were suffering from isolation. People were cut off from their healthcare, from their counseling, from their social rec and leisure programs. We didn't even consider how many of our clients relied upon Tim Hortons and McDonald's for free Wi-Fi. So how were they going to stay connected to that 12-step community when it pivoted to virtual meetings? Who was going to skill them up to be able to even use a Zoom account, to be able to find a meeting list online, especially if they had no data? We went from supporting about 130 people who were within a year of graduating our program to having 647 people who were desperate for us to continue to support them by phone and Zoom. We went to the United Way and we said, we need to pivot. We need to do more support to people in the community. We can't be focusing exclusively on our alumni. We are putting people through treatment at half the rate because we had to reduce our bed rate by half. So we really pivoted to try and intensify our support. We were concerned that we were continuing to churn out these new members who needed that safety net of people with long-term recovery to catch them and sponsor them and like help guide them through the process of doing the steps and recovering. And it just wasn't catching with the virtual world. And that magic of walking into a room full of people and saying, I'm an addict, my name is Deborah, like the power of that community to heal. You know, the Harvard University study 2 years ago said that, I mean, they talked about the significance of Alcoholics Anonymous and the tremendous outcomes that it produced for people. But what it proved more importantly is the two most essential determinants of health are a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. So we did a million things. I mean, we pivoted. We had 9 laptops going, delivering virtual care. We're up in North Halton where they don't have fiber optic cabling. So we literally have 12 internet accounts with TV antennas for all the Wi-Fi that we had to introduce. Clients went to virtual visits. We started developing virtual care. We, because of the United Way, put a modem in the window of every single one of our facilities so people could have free Wi-Fi in our parking lot, so they could attend those meetings. They could FaceTime with their kids far away. They could have virtual counseling appointments. We started organizing activities for our alumni where we would get them in a van and drive them through something in mass. We just pivoted. People were so desperate for support. People with 5 years, 10 years, 15 years started drinking, started using drugs. I mean, alcohol consumption in the general population went up 638%. If I see one more cope with wine meme, I'm going to lose my mind. Oh my goodness. So yeah, people were struggling, and we actually had to make a decision about whether we should continue to send newcomers out to a community that was not stable enough to support them, or whether we should pivot and take these people that had solid recovery, that had their jobs, their families, their lives back, and bring them back in and shore them up. So we were strengthening the safety net out there. And that's exactly what we did. The moral injuries suffered by my staff, it'll be years recovering from them. We had to cut so we had people booked into treatment beds. When COVID hit in April, our wait time was 180 days. So we had our treatment beds booked for the next 6 months. That wait time doubled because we could only bring in half as many people. We have a staff on long-term disability who worked with a woman for 2 years who was going to lose her preschool children to child welfare apprehension if she didn't get into treatment. And because of the shortage of foster care and the delay in accessing treatment, those children were apprehended and placed separately. And my employee could not cope with the heartbreak of that. We have seen people fall. Like I said, the third cause of waitlist attrition right now is death. We have a saying in the 12-step community, you know, we believe that we're entirely self-supporting through our own contributions. We call it the 7th tradition, and we pass the basket. And that's kind of how I conceptualize the United Way, that all of you represent our community. You're like our service committee to go out there and get the members of this community to take responsibility for supporting those who are struggling, those who are in need. And typically when we pass the basket at a meeting, we say, give if you can. If you can't, keep coming back and then you'll be able to. Well, we don't say that anymore. Meetings are reopened. Now we pass the basket and we say, give like lives depend on it, because they do. So when you go out there in your campaign message, this isn't a nice time to give. This isn't a generous thing to do. This is for those of us that still have a job, that are still earning an income. Regardless of the hardships that we're facing, we're standing. We're still standing. A lot of people are not. And a lot of people are at risk of failing. So the mission, this is mission critical. I give out a leadership donation. I will be on top of every person that works for me, making sure that they're contributing, making sure that they're increasing their contribution. And we have been in compensation restraint for 3 years, so nobody has got a raise. And I don't give a crap about inflation. The safety net, we've seen the holes in it. It's our job. It's our responsibility and unity to take care of this community. That's what I'm going to do. And I hope that's what all of you are going to do too. So thank you so much for your service. People never say that. Thank you so much for your service to this community. And you may not see day to day the difference that it makes, but I have 638 people who will tell you you saved their lives. So thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all the people whose life you've touched in miraculous ways that you'll never understand, and whose families, by extension, you've gotten through this pandemic. Thank you.